Okay, we are going live. We are live, folks. Middle of a geomagnetic storm. If you are jumping to the live stream, please let me know that everything is working. You can hear me, you can see me. We're going to talk about this. I'll wait for a few people to come in. So if you're watching this after, just click forward a few times. But really strong Earth energies right now because of solar activity, and that's likely to continue because we have a massive far side sunspot on the sun right now, the biggest that we've seen for solar cycle 25. Hello, Kaylee, I see you. All right, so it looks like we have some people jumping in now. And so let's get started. We are right now in a G1, G2 geomagnetic storm that is intensifying. We see that very clearly here with our HB30 index. This is a 30-minute measure of geomagnetic field volatility. So what we're measuring here is the magnetic field strength of the Earth across the globe, and we're measuring the changes in field strength on a 30-minute measure. And so all these green values here are nice, quiet, calm conditions. This is basically Earth not in a geomagnetic storm. And then you quickly see this jump to yellow, and that shows that we are now in a geomagnetic storm. Anything at a level of 5 for the HB30 index, for the HB60 index, KP index, which is a 3-hour measure, that means you're at a geomagnetic storm. And Earth's magnetic field is shaking and all this stuff, and you have a lot happening. It's too complex for this live stream here. But the point of this live stream is to show you that we are in this period of enhanced energy volatility. And not only that, we are reaching this G2 level here. If I put the cursor on that red bar, we see that we had an HB30 index high of 6.33 for this 24-hour period here. So we are now in a geomagnetic storm, and it's intensifying because this is from a sequence of solar storms that is arriving and impacting Earth. We'll look at the space weather model, but we've only had, I think, about 2 of the 4 solar storm impacts thus far. So I see you all in the chat there. Hello, everyone. We'll do a Q&A at the end. Let's try to keep it on track. If you want a question asked and answered, do at Stefan Burns, see the pin top. Feeling quite a bit better today. If you watched my video last night, my leg has healed a lot in just the span of 24 hours. So thank you so much for all your healing and blessings and things of that nature. It really seems to have made a profound difference. And again, just at the beginning of the live stream, for anyone that's unaware, spirituality is back in stock. It won't be for long. It's selling out pretty fast. And also the newest tea blend, fruit tea, which goes really well with it, is also in stock. This is great for immunity, helping you to rest, relax, de-stress because of lemon balm and many other wonderful ingredients. So the links to those are in the video description. I'll talk about them at the end of the live stream before the Q&A. But I know these sell out really fast and everyone's like wanting them. So if you're watching this, now's the time to jump in. So geomagnetic storm, it's right now active, intensifying, and that is likely to continue. Let's look at our space weather model. And so I just have to switch tabs over here. Here is our latest space weather model by NOAA. They updated it yesterday, which I was kind of surprised by because they had one, and this is just a slight deviation from the other one. It actually shows it being more intense. So we'll first look at these plasma density bumps here. We see this big one that came in, or is coming in rather late on the 10th and into the 11th, which is today. This is universal time. And then we see this second wave here on the 12th, this kind of 12th zone right there with a double bump of plasma on top of that. And both of these have velocity bumps as well. So it's this double impact. Now let's actually look at the model here to the left, and we see the sequence of solar storms launch. Here's the Earth in green. It's 1 and then 2, 3 right there. So the first one is this first large wave. Originally they had this set lower, and now they've kind of increased the strength of that according to their model, and they have these others combining basically because this third one is faster right here, creating that double top, that extra spike on top of some spiciness that we already have. If we look down below, we see our velocity. Here are our color legends, by the way. If you aren't up to date on this, we see the increase in the velocity come in. This is already on top also of a higher velocity stream. As you can see, this yellow stream there is already higher velocity. And so what you have are these co-rotating interaction regions. These are areas where plasma piles up, it becomes dense, but the velocity is typically low at that leading edge. Behind it, the velocity is faster for the solar wind. So not only do we have faster solar wind just naturally coming in, now we have these solar storms coming in on top of that. Does location have anything to do with the degree that you feel these frequencies? Yes, if you are up in the high latitude regions for the northern hemisphere or for the southern hemisphere, then these magnetic field swings are much stronger. Now you said you're in Nicaragua. Down in the South American continent region, we have the South Atlantic anomaly, which receives more radiation in general because magnetic field strength there is very low. So that's more like Brazil, but that whole area has a weaker magnetic field in general. Most of the energy during a geomagnetic storm, like what's happening now, will be routed to the magnetic poles, north and south, depending on the ion charge, whether it's positive or negative. But you do get stray particles kind of going into those magnetic dents, specifically the South Atlantic anomaly, especially cosmic rays. It's a big issue for satellites there. Anytime the International Space Station goes through there, the radiation goes up. And so, but some of these effects aren't necessarily location dependent. The entire Earth right now is undergoing this energetic enhancement as a result of these solar storms impacting. So we're going to do more questions at the end of the video, but that one was pretty on topic, so that's why I addressed it. Let's also look at our real-time solar wind to see what I'm talking about when I'm saying it's intensifying. And then I want to look at this far side sunspot because it is a monster. It's a record breaker for solar cycle 25. By far the biggest far side sunspot that we've seen thus far. Of course, what's on the far side was once on the Earth facing side. We know the sunspots that rotated out of Earth direct view to the far side, and it seems that they congregated and really grew even larger since then. And now we have that rotating into view in about a week's time. So this is why I'm saying these geomagnetic storms are likely to continue for all of August. Right now we have this kind of sequence going to the 12th. We have some new stuff that may come in slightly afterwards, but there hasn't been much Earth-centered activity. That we have Big Mama there right now, sunspot group 3780. She has the potential for very large flares. She's in that bullseye zone now. But with this big far side sunspot rotating in, we have a very high likelihood of some strong solar storms being launched our way, more like the August 20th to August 30th. So here is our real-time solar wind, and I'll probably zoom in to the 1-day view, but this is our 3-day view. And what we are looking at down below is our KP index, the 3-hour measure of geomagnetic volatility. We see that's going up like this, it's intensifying. We see our solar wind parameters have also intensified. Down here we have temperature, here is our velocity, then density. We see this gradual increase in the density, but it's actually not so gradual because this is a log scale. See that 1, 10, 100,000? So keep that in mind. Here our velocity is a bit more of a linear scale, but we see these increases there in the velocity. And then we look at our interplanetary magnetic field. This is created by the sun, interacts with the Earth, creating geomagnetic storms. We see the first CME arrival there, this bump there in the black line is the total field strength of the interplanetary magnetic field. When it sharply rises, that basically tells you that you had a coronal mass ejection or a solar storm pass by. So we see that jump up, and now it's just been increasing in strength. Let's go to the 1-day view to look at that a little bit more clearly. And so here is our 1-day view. And so with the 1-day view, we actually missed that first coronal mass ejection impact. That occurred more than 24 hours ago. But we see how we've been having this increasing magnetic field strength from the sun, the solar wind, since then. Now, what's important about this is to look at this red line, which is the southward component. However you want to see you all in the chat. Thank you for being here. God bless. Hope you're feeling well, doing well. This southward component is very important. If it goes negative, and right now you see it's mostly positive, right? They color and shade it when it's negative. When it goes negative, that's when it really connects to Earth's magnetic field. So right now we actually have a pretty strong interplanetary magnetic field overall. Like here we're seeing values of 21, right? That's about 4 times stronger than average. So it's quite significant. Pushes deeper into Earth's magnetic field, allowing deeper energy injections and therefore more significant geomagnetic storms. But you'll notice this red line, the southward component, that vector direction has been staying positive, which means that we actually have been kind of deflecting most of this energy up to this moment in time with these first coronal mass ejection impacts. Even then, we are still in a G1, G2 storm based on which index you look at. If these next 2 solar storms that come in have different vector orientations for that southward component, then we could really see a dramatic increase in the geomagnetic volatility as a result, because we already have enhanced conditions. We already are in a G1 storm, on the edge of G2, and then all of a sudden you can imagine you have this now new coronal mass ejection stacked on top of that has the correct orientation to connect nicely with Earth, and all of a sudden you're at G3 really fast, G3, even G4. This is all possible. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it's all possible. And I lay out those possibilities because a lot of the viewers on my channel, they're energy sensitive, and so a lot of you, you would like to be prepared for more of the worst case scenario rather than thinking everything's going to be sunshine, butterflies, and rainbows every single day. Because when you're prepared for the worst, then you can experience the best. And so we have that potential there, and I think it's actually quite high of a potential for that to occur, for us to go to G3 geomagnetic storming territory in the next 24 hours or so, based on that space weather model. We can look at our, we can just actually look at our sun here with our latest intensitygram. And so we see Big Mama 3780. We see another sunspot. I don't know the name of this one. I haven't looked up the number, but this is getting quite large, at least in terms of its core. But it's not this distributed sunspot like 3780 is. This is still really the one to watch in that Earth strike zone right now. And this is actually even better placement for a solar storm to get launched our way than it is on this side because of the rotation dynamic. So really right here is like bingo territory. And so right now solar parameters are actually pretty calm. If we go to our X-ray flux, we can see that pretty nicely. Calm as in no like big flares. There's a whole bunch of low-grade activity causing an elevation in X-ray flux, quite a bit higher than just a month ago. But in terms of like X-class flares, M-class flares, we haven't had really any significant activity for about 36 hours now. Yeah, Big Mama and Little Mama. That could be Little Mama off to the left. Let's go back there really quick. Yeah, so this is Little Mama. Until I get the sunspot name, that's Little Mama. But we see some other sunspots here. These guys, for example, when they hit that limb, if they flare, they could trigger a proton radiation storm. Have we already passed the maximum for this storm? That's a good question. It's possible, but I don't think so. Again, if we go back to our space weather model, which is right here, we can see that double bump. And these are usually pretty accurate. And so we've had the first 2 come in, and now we have kind of this zone coming up ahead of us. So it's more likely than not, by my estimation, that we have a stronger geomagnetic storm ahead of us rather than the worst being, behind us now. And this is so far pretty low grade. I mean, back in May, we had that G5 storm, right? That was crazy. This is still just G1, G2. But the potential for it to intensify is there, and the potential for all of August to be very intense as it relates to geomagnetic storming is very high. Nothing's definitive or certain, right? And I'm not going to say, make proclamations because I don't want to manifest that, but it's definitely a high possibility and probability. We're in solar maximum. That's what this is all about, solar light and energy hitting our Earth, causing this increased energy volatility and just bringing more consciousness to our planet. We have this period ahead of us from the rest of 2024 through 2026 and into 2027 when we start to decline. So yeah, I mean, that's just what we have signed up. If we look at our different wavelengths of light, we have our 131 angstrom view. This was having trouble buffering earlier. Let me just refresh this really quick. And maybe I'll try the 304 angstrom view. We can just look at our sun just to see what's been happening for about the past 48 hours, and you see that there really isn't any strong like flares or plasma eruptions or filament launches, things of that nature. But there's a lot of activity in general. As you see here, 304 angstrom view, which gets a little bit deeper into the sun, just lots of activity. Some of it now rotating out, these guys here, but Big Mama is right in that strike zone, and we got more stuff, Little Mama rotating in. So just in general, sun's at solar maxima, more activity now in the northern hemisphere than we've had for the past few months, which is a sign that the magnetic field flip is progressing. And so that could be one reason why we see some really big solar storms launch over the next couple months, because now we have larger magnetic flux at play, whereas before it was more concentrated in the southern hemisphere. Now we also have these larger flux bundles working, and you need larger scale for larger storms. Let's look at our 131 angstrom view, because it shows the low-grade solar storm activity pretty nicely. Just all the kind of popping and flaring, especially from Big Mama here. Just it's constantly crackling, and just it's like popcorn in the microwave, you could say. It's just really going nuts. And so that's why we have X-ray flux overall elevated. Solar wind intensities overall are elevated, but we just in the past 36 hours haven't had significant flares. So there is a little bit of a break just based on that. Though right now, that would be like the 13th of August, the 14th of August, 15th of August. Unlikely for there to be any solar storms and geomagnetic storming during that time period, based on this imagery and what we've seen. Now, we also have our chronograph here. And so I'll update this to make sure it gets refreshed. And what you'll notice, and the reason I mention our chronograph here, even though we haven't had any flaring on our side, is because we see this really big storm launch from the sun like this, and it's actually close to a full halo in the past 24 hours. But this is not Earth direct. This is from the far side of the sun. But look at the plasma density on that. It's not this super high velocity, but just the density of that coronal mass ejection is so significant. It's really quite something else. I mean, you can even see it like unfurl there as it propagates out into space, and then it does have some of this characteristic of more like a halo. And that occurs more often when you are exactly Earth direct on the opposite side. And so this is from that far side sunspot group, that gargantuan sunspot on the far side of the sun. So let's give it a look, because this is what we have coming up ahead of us. And I'm going to take a sip of water. Thank you all for being here in the live stream, and happy Sunday. I hope you're all, Sunday. I hope you're all feeling well, doing well. We'll do questions in just a little bit. We're getting near the end of this presentation. Here we have two different views of our sun. We have our magnetogram for the Earth-facing side, and then we have our helioseismic data for the far side of the sun. This is for August 1st, the beginning of August, all the way up to, I think it goes to the 10th. And then they're still updating this data all the time. This is like a live data feed. And so what we'll see here, let me step off. Here we see this sunspot group there, then rotate in, and look at how it completely just expands at the very end there. It loops like every 6 seconds or so. So let's watch this one more time. Here's that sunspot group. It's actually kind of a cluster, came in, and then they seem to have merged together and formed this massive sunspot cluster on the far side of the sun. I can zoom over to the very end so we can see that. That is the biggest far side sunspot that we have imaged thus far for solar cycle 25. Just in terms of the sheer area and size, we don't know the complexity of it. We really don't know much about this sunspot group other than it's just an absolute beast. And the rotation rate for the sun is 28 days at the equator. And so here it's exactly Earth opposite. And so in basically 14 days, it's going to be right here. Notice that we have Big Mama exactly opposite this group. So there is a polarity here working, like this 180-degree polarity rotating around, giving us constant stimulus, you could say, here on Earth, because as one exits, the other enters, and then so on and so forth. And so we just have a lot of solar energy activity right now stacked on top of some very critical astrological alignments. I talked about that in yesterday's video. If you want a good video on the Aquarius full moon, some of the energies there, give that video a watch. So one about the whales. I hope you all enjoyed that video. It seems that really resonated with a lot of you. And so yeah, we have just some really crazy activity basically coming our way. We are already in that geomagnetic storm. It's intensifying right now, and I'll be with you every step of the way. So if you want to stay up to date on these energetic changes and much more, this channel is much more, there's a much greater hold to this channel and myself than just that, then please subscribe. Hope to see you there. We'll take questions, so get your questions ready. And since there's a little bit of a time lag, I'm going to talk about my tea blends in the lag period. Spirituality is back in stock. This is fantastic for helping you to achieve that deep parasympathetic state, which is restful, rejuvenative, very healing, helps you recover. And so the herbs that I've used are mugwort and passion flower, chamomile, and blue lotus flower. And these four together are fantastic at helping you to kind of rest, relax, improves your sleep, enhances your dreams. It can be great for sound healing or meditation or yoga or even psychic experiences, astral travel, out-of-body experiences. This is like a potentiator for all that, and it's very safe and holistic and natural, all organic, created by yours truly, myself. I do this all myself. And so if you'd like to pick that up before it goes out of stock, go on to the website and you can get that. I'll ship it out to you. And it will go out of stock. It's going to be going out of stock today. So spirituality is there. Also fruit tea, which is my herbal fruit tea. This is a blend of strawberry, elderberry, rose hips, hibiscus, and lemon balm. Pairs great with spirituality. There's only like 10 units of this left. So this is one to get if you want to add some brightness and flavor to your cup. If you want something to help satisfy a sweet tooth at night, just something for your immunity, but it's also good for your general wellness and to help you also rest and relax. Great for anxiety because of the lemon balm. And so these are also available for you. And just it smells so good. I've just been smelling all the different herbs in my apartment for the past few days because I've been mixing them and everything, and oh, it's amazing. So this is really the blend to get, though. Really great for these periods of high energy flux, because not only does it ground you and get you calm and stable, but then it allows you to connect to those energetic fields a bit more easily. And energy contains information, and so if you would like to receive more information and intuitive downloads and things from the sun and from the cosmos, from Mother Earth, then this is the blend to use. And it doesn't have detrimental effects like, for example, cannabis or other things. Like you can have this quite often, and it's really wonderful and great, and enhances at a nice base load foundational level all your kind of psychic abilities, you could say. So we have some questions. Let me scroll up to see them. How can we prepare for civil unrest? For civil unrest, I'd say, how can we best integrate our own unrest and trauma and anxiety and things of that nature? I think if we all, yes, there are things happening in the collective conscious and the public, but if we become more self-actualized, empowered, and in tune with ourselves, then that is a big part of that equation. And you are now not as reactive to others or situations or things. And so that's by far the majority of that equation. Is by working on yourself, we can help heal society as a whole. Because you don't know how your interaction with someone may heal them. Someone's in a really bad mood, but you show them a little bit of kindness, and it can just create that instant shift that just lightens them and changes their day, and perhaps changes things. I mean, there's so many stories of people that were going to commit suicide, and they received, like, they're at the parking lot meter, and the guy that takes their money gives them a big smile, and they decide not to take their life. Like, it can be that simple. So it really starts with us. That's what I believe. Would soaking in the ocean during this time be the most ideal way to help our mental and physical mental and physical from the negative impacts of these storms. Move to the coast, excited to be beach bound. Yeah, the ocean is probably the strongest way you can ground. It can actually be sometimes a little bit too powerful for people, because if you have these traumas or hurts and pains in your energetic body, the ocean will bring them up pretty quickly. And sometimes people just aren't ready for that. But I do believe Spirit guides us to do these things as necessary and also protects us at times. So when you are in the ocean, you are basically in this big conductive soup. It's full of life. It's so rejuvenative and regenerates things, very healing, connects you to the energies of Mother Earth, the Schumann resonances. All life on the planet, originated from the oceans. It's very primordial. And so, yeah, it's like the healing waters. And so if you want to experience these energies from a very grounded state, to have your energy be not as volatile, but to be able to connect to those energies, to learn from them, then being in the ocean is a great way to do that. You don't have to be in the ocean 24/7. We're not whales, but you can go to the ocean as often as possible, 20 minutes in the water, 30 minutes in the water, depending on the temperature, and your body grounds very quickly. So you don't even need to get in the water if you're not comfortable with that. You can simply get your feet on the wet sand. That's very grounding, but full immersion, head underwater too, in salt water is the best way to ground. Thanks for the super thanks. Really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you, Kimberly. And so there was another question. What do you think of Neptune and Aries will combine with these solar flares? Neptune and Aries, that occurs in 2025. And so this is going to be during solar maximum. We also have Saturn and Aries. So both will get within 13 arc minutes of each other at 0 degrees or at 2 degrees of Aries. And so it's almost a conjunction between them in 2025. And Aries is the sign of the exaltation of the sun, the beginning of the zodiac. And so, it's all about Big Bang, combustion, new initiation energy. And so that could really amplify all those energies, though I think it's going to work slightly differently. We see Uranus is very much connected to these geomagnetic storms, but I would expect the transit of those into Aries will be significant in some way, but I'm not going to make any proclamations. But yeah, based on the astrology, I would expect 2025 to be probably even more crazy than 2024 has been as it relates to solar activity in geomagnetic storms. Take a few more questions and then we'll turn off the live stream. Why is there such physiological variability in people's experiences of high energy fluxes? Well, in general, everyone is very different and individual. Their health is at different states. For example, people's diets are different. People's consumption of different drugs is different. By drugs, I mean pharmacological drugs like prescriptions. I mean things like coffee, cannabis, mushrooms, all those things. Also other drugs like, let's say, cocaine. I mean, all those are altering sensors and receptors in the brain. And so hormones, all those things are affected. How are people sleeping? And so everyone's super individual, and one person can be in a pretty calm, regular, rhythmic state and therefore not experience too much energy flux. They could also be young and healthy versus old and a little bit further on in life, and that will influence it. And so there's also just in general, some people are more sensitive to these energies. And then there's other people that are a little bit more kind of like, bricks. They just don't really feel that as strongly. They're just more stable. That's also based on your astrological makeup as well. So there's a lot of reasons, but the psychological reasons, psychological variability, I think that also has to do a lot with our mindset. Like, how do we respond to these things? Do we let these things kind of amplify and build, let's say like thoughts or patterns and loops? Or do we have a fairly good ability to just like let things be in our minds a little bit more simple? Not everyone has thoughts. I just learned this recently. Like, not everyone thinks, which is kind of crazy, but not everyone has active commentary in their mind with thoughts. So yeah, there's a profound variability. Are we even going to make it to 2025? Yes, I think so. I think we will make it to 2025. I mean, who knows? No one knows. At the end of the day, every single day is a new, unique opportunity and a blessing for all of us. That is what I believe. What are your thoughts about solar activity on animal behavior and conservation efforts? Well, in general, it seems that animals are more in tune with these energies than we are. But I think that also animals don't have some of these feedback loops that kind of makes them more anxious and agitated like we do. For example, like the news. Let's just take the news, for example. They love to rile people up, right? And to get them really agitated. I think animals are a little smarter than that in that aspect. But for example, an earthquake's about to strike, they run for the hills. So they know what's up. They have magnetoreception. A lot of animals to a better developed degree than, let's say, we do as well. But I don't think they fall prey to some of these overthinking loops that we have, which make the situation worse. Because really so much of our reality is experienced, and our experience is determined by our thoughts and how they then influence our action. And you can work yourself up into a huge migraine and into a frenzy, into an anger and everything, just by your thoughts, just letting them run out of control, right? So it's really about learning to observe your mind, and as a result, start to control that process. I noticed some animals do feel some nervousness when they sense approaching earthquakes. Yeah, especially like dogs and cats. I mean, those are the animals that we keep most often, and they seem to be very attuned with that. And they notice these energies before, let's say, like the P wave or the S wave arrivals come in, which are the first seismic waves. And then you have the surface waves, which are slower. So they're noticing some electromagnetic disturbance from these earthquakes, or atmospheric disturbance, something. Last question here. Should I blame my weird, unsettling dreams or nightmares I usually do not experience on these solar energies? It's very uncomfortable, and like last night, if my dream is real or not. And okay, well, first I would say examine the word blame, right? I think we're quick to attribute 100% cause to something, right? My experience of dreams, because I dream a lot, my experience of dreams is that there are different dimensions to the astral realm. Some of them are lower frequency, some are higher frequency, and lower frequency ones are the ones where you have these nightmares. It's more root chakra, more fear-based, and we have the entire chakra experience within us. And it's good to work with all of them at times, to become a master of all the different energies. If you have a lot of nightmares, then you are having fears and worries get brought up for you from your subconscious mind, and perhaps you're also in these lower frequency astral realms. My personal experience with cannabis is that it greatly reduces your frequency in the astral realm and drops you into those. It's very much plutonic and based on the root chakra. And so it's very powerful in that sense because it helps you to work with those foundational energies, but it's not something that's going to lift and raise your frequency and vibration. So you have to examine whether you're using things like that. And so if you're having energetic, like a geomagnetic storm, triggering nightmares, for example, then what that is effectively telling me, or what you could make an assessment, is that when there is an increase in energy volatility, your root chakra is responding to that. Your root and your sacral chakra are responding to that, liberating those energies which are already dormant and existing there, and those traumas, but they just don't have an active energy flow, because the energy flow can be lower through those if you're not working to address them actively. Let's say you're not utilizing those energies. And so I wouldn't blame it. I would say that's just the experience that consciousness and spirit gave you to work with, and it's time to integrate and work with those energies. Do you think CBD also resonates with the root chakra? Not so much. It seems to be kind of benign, if that makes sense. And I think the ratio is really important if we're talking about cannabis. Like I just have this 20-to-1. 20 CBD, 1 THC cream. It's a cream that makes a big difference, but it's only the only effect that I felt is that it's basically helped relieve some pain and just a little bit of relaxation. But that's 20 parts CBD, 1 part THC. CBD seems to be just kind of in general good, and it works with different receptors throughout the body, whereas THC receptors are a little bit more concentrated. So yeah, big geomagnetic storm that we're in right now. It's intensifying. We can look at our index one last time to see that, and I hope that it continues to be well. Everything goes well for everyone during this period. I'll be with you every step of the way. That's my mission here with this channel. So as this continues on, we're looking to see a second bump in about a day's time or so. Could come in early. We'll see how that model, how close it is to reality. But in general, right now we're at this G1 zone. We were at G2 just a little earlier. But as these other solar storms come in, which are stronger, tomorrow we could see a bump up to G2, G3. And so one last reminder, again, spirituality is back in stock. Fruit tea, the new Herbal fruit tea blend is also in stock. Just a few of these. They might be gone now at the end of this live stream. I don't know. And so thank you all for being here. Just wishing you a happy Sunday. Hope that you're feeling well. And yeah, just grateful to have you all in the community. I am feeling much better now with my leg. I mean, I definitely have a pretty big muscle strain, but it's surprising how much it healed just over the past 24 hours. So thank you for all the love and the healing and the blessing and the Reiki and everything. It's tremendous. And for anyone that's new, welcome to the community. Yeah, just feeling grateful to have you all here and grateful that I can be there for you. So with that, enjoy your Sunday, and I'll see you all in the next video.